having explained that how is Ein Sof Lamata Madad in Tachlis, because one line answer, Atzilus is mislabish, taken away lavush, but nonetheless mislabish in all of the Eilamis. And that's essentially the chiddush of the Maimer. But it's not one lavush on top of another lavush on top of another lavush. In other words, the Eilamis, but rather Bina of Atzilus is nislabish in Bria, the Midas of Atzilus in Yitzira, and Malchus d'Atzilus in Asir. We gave a marshal. Did you hear the shurim until now? So I give a marshal of four kinds of four relationships of a chassid. There's a chassid, the highest level of iskashrus, nafshis, mamish, and then there's the chassid. There's iskashrus, is mitzad the Torah of the Rebbe. That's so the highest one is the Matzilus. Bria is mitzad the learning, the limud. Then there's the iskashrus, mitzad the ave that the Rebbe has for every chassid. That's Yitzira, and then there's the iskashrus. He's a tnuah. He lives with the tnuah.
Each one comes down to its own.
Yeah, the point is there are different levels of sophistication, without doubt. But the nakud is it's still discussions to the same. Or child, 4 levels or 3 levels of children. A child that relates to the father on an essential level. Another child that relates to the father, his mind. A third to his emotions, and the fourth, the father's behavior. The 8 little children, older. So it's all tati. It's just relating differently. That's the answer to Ein Sof is the mathematic in Tachlis. What the amazing thing is that in the Frikdebes Maimer, he doesn't spell out that this is now the answer to the question. He just kind of derech agav explaining ishtalshalos, not derech agav, almost derech agav when he brings the Zohar that Bina rests in Bria. That's not just more elaboration. That is the answer to the question. That's what the Rebbe is explaining in Tov Chav Gimel. Now the Maimer goes in and knows Dalet to say that most neshamas come from where? The levushim, these levushim of Atzilus, namely Bia. So what's the hemshech in Yom to talk about neshamas? The hemshech is that the whole avodah the whole point of the Maimer is that it's our avodah to reveal the Shekhinah Lamata, and therefore everything we're speaking about has to exist by Yidden if we're going to be mamshech it Lamata. You have to have this parallel. So therefore he says that the levushim of Biyah that we said are the levushim of Atzilus, it's true of, and that's shaychas to Neshamas Yisrael. Clear? So that's what he's talking in simple words. Why is he talking about Neshamas Yisrael? Immediately, because Neshamas Yisrael are the ones to implement and carry out the gilui, tachlis gilui of the Shekhinah Lamata, and therefore all the inyanim Lamaila are invested in them. This requires further elaboration, but it will suffice. But then he goes on to say that Reiv Neshamas Biyah, only Chad Bedora of the early generations and Neshama Datzilus. But the majority of Biyah, we wanted to say, that's what it says in the Maimon of the Frikdebes. Just someone I'm going to kill. So just someone has to be muted there. Mayor, sorry. I don't know if I can do it. Hey, I can do it. No, I can ask you to mute. That's all I can do. Okay, sorry. So he goes on to explain the Alter Rebbe. He brings the Alter Rebbe look at the Torah that's mavai barichas this Inyan. He says Moishe Rabbeinu. A summary. Moishe Rabbeinu's darge is the atzmius of Chachmilah, which is the market of Torah. Torah is described in Chazal as Noivlois Chachma Shelamayla, which means the residue or the unripe, the undeveloped Chachma Lamayla. That's what Torah is. So what's the Shoresh of Torah therefore? Is this Chachma Shelamayla. And what's Chachma Shelamayla? This is Atzmius of Chachmilah. That's a Moshe Rabbeinu is rooted, his neshama, and therefore he is the one to convey Torah. That's why it's Kvad Peh and Kvad Loshen. says in Zohar, Kvad Peh goes on Teresh Bal Peh, and Kvad Loshen goes on Teresh Biksav. Being a neshama d'Atzilus, and not Stam Atzilus, but the Pnimis of Atzilus, so he has difficulty relating to Bia. He needs Aaron to be the intermediary between Moishe Rabbeinu and Neshamas Yisrael. As in the famous Zohar that Matan Torah is the Chasana, and Moishe Rabbeinu was the Shushvini in the Malka. He's the Eibishter's accompaniment, and Aaron, he lifts his avodas to bring up Eden. But Moishe Rabbeinu himself, it's to put this in simple language, it's difficult to communicate Yichudi Ilah be'emes, and they did mulvada it in the Neshamas the Bia, whose starting point is self and Yichud Tata. It's the Kvad Peh and Kvad Loshen B'Pnimius. The exclusivity of a Likusa, the Eibshter's only reality, to convey that to a world where the reality is me and then God. So Kvad, it's impossible be'emes. It's only b'keich HaTorah and b'keich Moishe Rabbeinu that it can happen, but it's difficult. That's what we're up to. So then we had then he added the Kamoikan in every generation, like both the Gemara then in Shabbos, that Rav Safra said to Rove, he called him Moishe Rabbeinu. Moishe Shapik Omres. Moishe, it's a question. You're saying well, but the way you read it is Shapik Omres just saying well. He's not bringing the whole Gemara here. But we addressed that yesterday. There was really a criticism, but it really ties into the Kvad Peh. Rove's Svara was beyond him. And they're called, who remembers, what's Pshat? They're called, Neshamas Datzilus are called Achim V'Reim L'Mokim. Who's the Mokim? This Loshen, Achim V'Mokim is from the Zohar. Brothers, siblings, and friends, L'Mokim, to the omnipresent. Who's Mokim? Mokim is Zoh. Because Zoh, the 6 midas, and we're suggesting the explanation here, but based on other places. Zoh, the 6 midas, and place has 6 dimensions. So these neshamas are siblings, related. They're neshamas of Chachma Bina. Their union is not their union. They are born as a result of the union of Chachma Bina. So they're Achim V'Reim to neshamas that are born as a union of Zun. And where do these neshamas emerge? In Bia. But the Achim V'Reim L'Mokim is referring to Zoh Datzilus. He says, spells it out. They are drawn from the Yichud of Avod Datzilus. Their Yichud is from Chacham Bina, the neshamas Datzilus. And therefore they're called brothers, siblings. To Zoh Datzilus, they're in the same family, but of a different order. Okay. The Heim L'Maileh B'chinas Torah. This is where we're up to, yeah? Went 2 lines further. Okay, so we're just below, 3 lines below number 33. So these neshamas Datzilus.
You're by Amnam HaNeshamas, yeah.
And the neshamas Datzilus, we mean here again, the Pnimius and Atzmius of Chachmila. So they are higher than Torah. Amnam HaNeshamas HaMeshachim is Zivug. Zun Datzilus, but the neshamas that are born as a result of the Yichud of they bishtes midas and malchos, haralidosim olil mabriya. So they emerge. They're born in olil mabriya. Now shaila. And even though in light of that which it says elsewhere, shagam is zivuk dizun datzilus. We just said now that from zun datzilus are born neshamas the bria. But it says elsewhere that even from the zivuk of Zoh and malchos of atzilus, gam kem di fa'amim neshamas gevoyes moed, and the Christ neshamas datzilus mamish. Even from this lower yichud, it says elsewhere, and we're not told where this elsewhere is even. Not even in the added ha'oras of Lahak. That's interesting. I couldn't find where this is. Very interesting. Hakolpanim. So somewhere it says that even the neshamas born of Zun datzilus still retain the Olam Atzilus quality, and in fact, they're very lofty in the neshamas, and they're called neshamas Atzilus Mamish. And we just made a statement that neshamas born from the Yichud of Zun emerge in Bria. Answer Mikol Mokim. Given sheshorshim is zivug the zun datzilus, so since the shorish is not yichud of avav chachma bina, but rather the yichud of za on nukva, im kain einon ela tipa achas, they're only literally a drop, and im shachis mimoichin the zun. So, and imsheches mimoichin the zun, they remain bound up with atzilus, but in a very, very limited way. This is technical. They are connected not to the atzmius of the moichin. It's only a tipa achis of the moichin of zun, not the, as opposed to moichin is atzmius dika moichin. That's the shamas of Moishe Rabbeinu and that ilk. That's which we say there are also lower levels of neshama datzilus, which remain in Eilam Atzilus, which means they have a shaykhis to moichin, to chachma, in other words. But the answer is, what level? Tipa achas of moichin. Batoiri etzem chabad the zun datzilus mamish. Whereas Torah is not the tipa achas, but Torah is etzem of chabad the zun datzilus. Moishe Rabbeinu was not etzem of chabad the zun datzilus. Moishe Rabbeinu was the atzmius of chachma bina. There's three levels we just identified now. Moishe Rabbeinu's neshama is rooted where in atzmius of chachma datzilus. Torah is chachma bina datzilus. Chabad the zun. Chabad as it relates to zun, as opposed to atzmius. Atzmius means Chabad as it stands on its own, as it were, and Chabad the zun means that it's related to and linked to zun, to the Svirus. So the Torah is etzem Chabad, but what level? The zun datzilus is not atzmius of Chabad. That's the distinction here. Atzmius Chabad means on its own, fundamentally, essentially. And atzmius, what Torah is, however, is the etzem of Chabad, of what? As Chabad is linked to the Svirus below it, zun datzilus. That's what Torah is. And what is what? These neshamas, that are neshamas datzilus, but not on the same level at all as Moishe Rabbeinu. So they are a tipper of this level, of the Torah level. Is that clear? It's very technical, but that's what it is. Yeah?
Can one say that Moishe comes from Yichud Avah, the Neshamas of Bria from Yichud Zon, and the Neshamas Baitan Kali Kuchabricho Shchinte, the third one?
What's the third thing you said?
Zah and Malchus.
No, I know, yeah, but they're referring to who's neshamas?
We
want to get with this.
Question.
There's three levels of neshamas we're plotting here. Moishe, then other neshamas datzilus, and then neshamas the biyah. It's that middle level that he just introduced now and identified. There's shaykhis to moichin, which is why there's shaykhis there for tatzilus, not exclusively zun. But what level of moichin? Only tipa achas of moichin that is present in zun.
That's the middle level?
That's the middle level of neshamas. And then there's Torah. So there's four things here. Then there's Torah, which is the etzem of Chabad of zun. No, which means Chabad of Atzilus, classically. What? Moishe is the atzmius of Chachma.
That's different than the etzem of Chachma.
That's different than the etzem of Chachma and Bin as it relates to zun.
That's Torah.
That's Torah. A tipper of that is neshamas datzilus. Zun is neshamas the biyah. It's four levels. What?
What do you say that when he says Chabad de Zun, that's a Chabad itself, or the Meichin itself as it relates to Zun? It seems like outside of Meichin, in Zun, it's the own level of Meichin.
No.
There's an Lashon, I would say.
Chabad the Zun, Chabad as it relates to it. That's classic Atzilus. All the spheres relate to each other. I hear what you're saying, but that's what he means. This we could play with the language and say that's what it is. Chabad and Moishe Rabbeinu is Chachma Bina alone. This is semantics. Chachma Bina alone, and that's called Atzmis of Chachma. You could say it that way, but it's a question of semantics. I mean, a question of language, but let's get the full level straight again. There's what he calls Atzmis of Chacham and Bina, actually not even Chacham Bina, of Chacham Ilah. That's in the Neshama of Moishe Rabbeinu. This is Chad B'Dora in Doros Rishonim, but he says it also exists in every generation. Bemis didn't say that. We'll see later, not every generation. What did he say before? Where he said something. Yeah, that's the, but then he says later.
Is that different than his
He says at the end, it's Pashtus of the Moishe B'chol Dor V'Dor and see Yisrael. He equates that with Moishe Rabbeinu. So it's a little bit of a stira. It's B'chol Dor V'Dor, or it's in only Doros Rishonim. Somewhat of a stira. Somewhat, not really, but anyway. But let's just get these 4 levels straight again. What are the 4 levels? Geography. No, so the Neshama of Moishe Rabbeinu is Atzmis of Chacham Ilah. What's Torah?
As it relates to Zon.
Yeah, so either Chacham and Bina, but it's certainly, even if you're talking about Chacham and Bina on its own, still, as it's Nimshech in Atzilus, it's part of the whole structure of Atzilus, and therefore integrated with Zon.
Just how's that different than Chacham Ilah, or what? That's out of Atzilus. That's in Atzilus.
Pnimius, the Pnimius of Chacham Ilah is bound up with Ein Sof.
Which has nothing to do with the rest of the sphere.
It has nothing to do. It's Pnimius. It's a mutza. The Pnimius of it is bound up with Ein Sof, and it's connected to Atzilus. And Moishe Rabbeinu is Begoli bound up with the Pnimius, the Atzmis of Chacham Ilah, which is wherein the Ein Sof resides. And that's lost on, obscured in classic Chacham Bina. In the Pnimius of it, that's what Moishe Rabbeinu embodies. So, but just summarize these 4 levels, then we'll conclude. No, so the Torah is not Torah. Moishe Rabbeinu, Neshama Datzil is pure. Neshama Datzil is bound up with what? Atzmis of Chacham Ilah.
No, that's Moishe, not
Moishe Rabbeinu, yeah. And what, as he says, we say at the end, the see Yisrael. We'll talk about Moishe Rabbeinu. Then there is what? Torah, which is Chacham Bina. Huh?
That's about Chacham Bina as it relates to Zon.
The etzem of Chacham Bina as it relates to this whole system of Atzilus, to Zon. Yeah. Then you have the other lower levels of Neshamas Atzilus, which is only a tip of Chacham Bina as it relates to Zon.
That's all other Neshamas of Atzilus. That's
other Neshamas of Atzilus. Why are they still Neshama Atzilus? Because they have a shaykhus to the Nekudas HaChacham, which is bittul.
Right.
They have a shaykhus, an overt connection to the bittul of Atzilus, to Yechudi Ilah, Tipu Achas, not whatever that means, but they have a shaykhus. And then there's the rest of the neshamas, which are born as a result of the yichud of Zon. They don't have a shaykhus overtly at all to Chachma, this bittul of Yechudi Ilah, emotions. But the world of emotions is completely, let's remember what we're talking about. The world of emotions is completely subjective, and the world of intellect is, by definition, objective. What's the truth? If I want to understand what there is. So as long as even a tipper of a shaykhus to that, you have a shaykhus of this objective. You have an objective, you have a shaykhus to the objective quest for truth. So this element of Yechudi Ilah. Consequences be what they may. Emotions are not that way. Emotions are bound up. I feel, I want. It's completely locked into self. It's a different gather. So the neshamas that are born as a yichud of Zon Malchus, their world is Bria. That's where it starts. Bria is separate in identity. It does not feel. The Pnimius, yeah, it's all there, everything's there. But it does not feel that it's exclusivity in the truth of Yechudi Ilah. It's these quasi neshamas in between we can appreciate. Why they still called neshamas Atzilus? Because the tip they have a shaykhus to the tip of Chabad, which means they have a shaykhus to the bittul of Atzilus. which at the end of the day is you, not me. That's what Chacham means. Chacham means you.
The classic neshamas of Atzilus, no?
It's kind of, yeah, and Be'emes, that's the classic Neshamas Atzilus.
It's not even
That's the classic Neshamas Atzilus in contrast to
Moishe.
Moshe Rabbeinu and the Nisi Yisrael is going to say. So he spoke more generally and just got more and more specific. Now the whole point's going to be like this is going to lead up to the big question. So we're out of the picture. When the Shalom is the Biyah, we emerge from Yichud Zun. We have no shaykhs to this bittul, and we're carrying out the kavan of Dira B'Tachteinim. And he said before in the previous, everything has to be in the Neshama Yisrael, only in the every Neshama. So he goes on to say, the Maimon says that even as we are, the Neshamas are in Biyah, where the Pnimius of Biyah. There's a whole new dimension will be added. That the Pnimius will never lose that connection. And that's the lot of the tzava, that Moishe nurtures that and is megala then. And therefore we can carry out the whole Avodah Mimam Shechatmas Lamata because we have a shaykhs to all the inyonim, it's all invested in us. Okay, all to be seen.